In the bustling streets of New York City, where viral sensations are born every second, a young and ambitious TikToker named Ryan "Reguy" Monroe was on a mission. With over 3 million followers, Ryan had built his reputation on daring pranks, outrageous stunts, and laugh-out-loud moments. But now he wanted to pull off something legendary, a prank so epic it would break the internet. His target? None other than Mr. Bean, the quirky, bumbling, yet mysteriously brilliant man who had recently arrived in the city for a charity event. Though decades older, Mr. Bean was still as unpredictable and eccentric as ever, wandering the streets with his brown tweed jacket, red tie, and that unmistakable green Mini Cooper. Ryan knew that if he could prank Mr. Bean, he would skyrocket to global fame. So, with his camera crew in tow and a mischievous grin on his face, he began crafting his most ambitious prank yet, something he called the invisible trap. The idea was simple. Ryan would lay down invisible fishing lines across a busy sidewalk, just low enough to trip someone but thin enough to be nearly undetectable. When Mr. Bean walked by, the line would catch his foot, causing a harmless but hilarious stumble. Classic slapstick comedy. What could go wrong? "All right, guys," Ryan whispered into the camera, crouching behind a hot dog cart. "This is it. We've been chasing this guy around all week, and today Mr. Bean is about to meet Reguy. Let's do this." His crew chuckled quietly as they positioned their hidden cameras. Ryan, full of confidence, laid the invisible line perfectly across the sidewalk and gave a thumbs up to his team. Everything was in place. And there he was, Mr. Bean, strolling along the sidewalk with his usual clueless expression. But as always, appearances were deceptive. Clutching his iconic teddy bear in one hand and a half-eaten sandwich in the other, Mr. Bean hummed softly to himself, seemingly unaware of Ryan's elaborate trap. As he neared the line, Ryan's heart pounded. His fans were going to love this. "Wait for it, wait for it," Ryan whispered, his finger hovering over the record button. But just as Mr. Bean's polished leather shoe was about to hit the invisible line, he stopped. Without even looking down, he lifted his foot and performed an elegant, ballet-like twirl over the trap. Ryan's jaw dropped. "Dude, how did he?" one of the crew members gasped. Mr. Bean continued walking, completely unfazed, his sandwich still firmly in hand. It was as if he had sensed the trap without even trying. Ryan, unwilling to give up, waved for his team to prepare Plan B, a classic fake dog poop prank. Slipping ahead through the crowd, Ryan placed a hyper-realistic rubber dog poop right in Mr. Bean's path. This was a foolproof prank. No one could ignore stepping in something that gross. As Mr. Bean strolled toward the prank, Ryan held his breath. But instead of stepping in the poop, Mr. Bean did something unbelievable. He bent down, pulled a tiny handkerchief from his jacket, and carefully wrapped the fake poop as if it were a fragile treasure. Ryan couldn't believe his eyes. Is he saving it?" Ryan muttered. And that's when it happened. Mr. Bean, still crouched down, turned his head directly toward Ryan's hiding spot. With a mischievous twinkle in his eye, he winked. "Oh no, he knows," Ryan gasped, scrambling backward. But before Ryan could react, Mr. Bean stood up, pocketed the fake poop, and walked off, completely flipping the script on the prankster. And the prank war? It had only just begun. Ryan's heart pounded in his chest as he watched Mr. Bean stroll away, the fake poop still tucked neatly in his pocket. This wasn't how things were supposed to go. Usually, his pranks left people confused, embarrassed, or both. But Mr. Bean? He had flipped the prank on its head without breaking a sweat. "What just happened?" Ryan whispered, pulling off his baseball cap to scratch his head. One of his cameramen chuckled. "Dude, I think you just got out-pranked by Mr. Bean." Ryan shook his head, refusing to admit defeat. "No way. Nobody pranks me. If he wants to play games, we'll give him a show." Time for Plan C. The plan was simple but effective, the coffee spill trick. Ryan would pose as a clumsy barista carrying a tray of coffee cups. When Mr. Bean passed by, Ryan would accidentally spill coffee all over him. But, of course, the coffee would be cold and fake. It was the perfect mix of chaos and comedy. A few blocks away, Mr. Bean had stopped at a street vendor selling funny souvenirs. With his keen interest in all things bizarre, he was fascinated by a toy rubber chicken, squeezing it repeatedly and giggling softly to himself. Ryan slipped on a green apron, grabbed a fake coffee tray, and strutted toward the vendor. His camera crew blended seamlessly into the busy sidewalk crowd, ready to capture every angle. As Ryan neared Mr. Bean, he put on his best panicked face. "Oh no! My tray!" he cried, pretending to stumble. In a flash, the fake coffee cups flew into the air, dark liquid splattering everywhere. The prank was perfectly timed. But Mr. Bean? He didn't even flinch. Instead, with his cat-like reflexes, he whipped out his umbrella from thin air and popped it open. Not a single drop touched his tweed jacket. Ryan froze, wide-eyed. How did he? Without missing a beat, Mr. Bean closed the umbrella, took the fake coffee cup out of Ryan's hand, and took an exaggerated sip, slurping loudly. Delicious," he said in his peculiar, mumbled voice, flashing a thumbs up before sauntering off. The surrounding crowd burst into laughter, several people pulling out their phones to capture the ridiculous moment. Ryan, meanwhile, felt his face grow warm as the prank backfired once again. "Okay, that was pretty awesome," Ryan's cameraman admitted between chuckles. But Ryan wasn't laughing. No, now it was personal. "All right, Bean," Ryan muttered under his breath. "If you want to play, let's play." Unbeknownst to Ryan, Mr. Bean had caught on to the prankster schemes long before the first trap. And now, he was playing along only in his own delightfully chaotic way. As he wandered through the city, Mr. Bean's mind whirred with mischief. He spotted a joke shop on the corner and knew it was time to turn the tables. With a quick glance over his shoulder, he darted inside. Minutes later, he emerged holding a whoopee cushion, a pair of novelty glasses, and a remote-controlled rubber pigeon. He giggled softly to himself as he stuffed the items into his coat. Ryan and his team, meanwhile, had regrouped near Central Park, plotting their next move. "Okay," Ryan said, pacing back and forth. "No more easy stuff. We're going full prank mode." His next plan? The classic fake celebrity chase. Ryan would disguise himself as a famous movie star, complete with a baseball cap and sunglasses. When Mr. Bean appeared, Ryan's fake fans would swarm him, begging for selfies. The goal? To overwhelm Mr. Bean with attention and catch his hilarious reaction. "Positions, everyone," Ryan ordered, as his fake fans scattered into place. He grinned wickedly. This was going to be the prank that finally broke Mr. Bean. But what Ryan didn't realize was that Mr. Bean was already 2 steps ahead. The tables turn. As Mr. Bean wandered into Central Park, still sipping from the fake coffee cup, he spotted Ryan's fake fans out of the corner of his eye. With an innocent shrug, he approached a nearby bench and casually placed the whoopee cushion beneath a seat. Ryan, dressed like a Hollywood heartthrob, strolled toward Mr. Bean with his fans trailing behind. As soon as they spotted the tweed jacket, the fake fans swarmed. "Mr. Bean, Mr. Bean, we love you," they cried, thrusting their phones in his face. Caught off guard, but always quick on his feet, Mr. Bean adjusted his tie and struck a series of dramatic poses, as if he were the world's most glamorous celebrity. The fans erupted into laughter. Ryan, confused by how quickly things were spiraling out of control, moved to sit down and pay HTTTTT. The loud, unmistakable sound of the whoopee cushion echoed across the park. The crowd exploded with laughter as Ryan shot up, his face burning red. "Are you kidding me?" he shouted, scanning the ground for the source of the noise. Meanwhile, Mr. Bean, ever the gentleman, offered his handkerchief as if to comfort Ryan, before tossing it over his shoulder and walking off, his prank perfectly executed. Ryan stood there, speechless. For the first time in his TikTok career, he wasn't the prankster, he was the pranky. And Mr. Bean? He wasn't done yet. Ryan paced back and forth under the towering oak trees of Central Park, frustration bubbling inside him. This was supposed to be his day, the prank that would cement his status as the ultimate prankster. But instead, he was the one getting humiliated by a man who didn't even speak in full sentences. No way I'm letting some tweed-wearing, 60-year-old guy outprank me, Ryan grumbled, adjusting his sunglasses. We're going bigger, much bigger. His next move, the fake award prank, an elaborate stunt designed to catch Mr. Bean completely off guard. Ryan's team quickly sprang into action, setting up a small stage in the middle of the park with a fake awards banner that read, Lifetime Achievement Award, Mr. Bean. The plan was simple. They would invite Mr. Bean on stage, shower him with fake praise, and then, at the peak of the ceremony, slime him with a bucket of bright green goo. It was a classic move from Ryan's playbook, and this time, there was no way Mr. Bean could dodge it. Within an hour, the stage was ready. A small crowd had gathered, curious about the impromptu event. Ryan grabbed a microphone and announced with exaggerated enthusiasm, Ladies and gentlemen, today we honor a global icon, a man who has brought joy to millions. Please give a warm welcome to Mr. Bean. The audience clapped as Mr. Bean, confused but intrigued, shuffled toward the stage. His eyes sparkled with curiosity as he climbed the stairs, his beloved teddy tucked under his arm. Ryan forced a smile as he handed Mr. Bean a gleaming, oversized gold trophy, which was actually hollow to conceal the slime trigger. Congratulations, Mr. Bean. How does it feel to be a legend? Mr. Bean held the trophy close, blinking at the crowd before breaking into a toothy grin. He lifted the trophy to the sky, as if he had just won an Olympic gold medal. Ryan gave a secret nod to his team, Slime Time. But as one crew member tugged the hidden rope to release the slime, Mr. Bean sneezed. A loud, dramatic sneeze that shook his entire body. And as he bent forward, the slime bucket missed him completely, landing squarely on Ryan's head instead. The crowd erupted into howls of laughter as Ryan stood there, dripping in neon green goo, his perfect hair and trendy jacket completely ruined. Mr. Bean, meanwhile, peeked up from beneath the trophy, his face completely clean. Without missing a beat, he pulled a tissue from his pocket, wiped the trophy lovingly, and gave it a polite kiss. Thank you very much, he mumbled softly, bowing to the audience. Ryan wiped slime from his face, barely able to process what had just happened. This can't be real, he muttered. But it was about to get worse. Now fully in prankster mode, Mr. Bean decided to deliver a grand finale that no one, not even Ryan, could top. While Ryan was still wiping slime from his ears, Mr. Bean pulled out his secret weapon, the remote-controlled pigeon he had bought earlier. Carefully, he released the mechanical bird, which flapped its wings realistically as it soared toward the stage. From the outside, it looked like an ordinary pigeon, but Mr. Bean had modified it with a special surprise. A hidden pouch filled with feathers and glitter. Ryan, still distracted, didn't even notice as the pigeon hovered over his head. With a press of a button hidden in his jacket pocket, Mr. Bean triggered the release. Poof! A shower of feathers and glitter exploded, coating Ryan from head to toe. He let out a startled yelp, swatting at the feathers sticking to his slime-covered face. Are you serious? He yelled, as the crowd burst into uncontrollable laughter. Mr. Bean, barely containing his glee, gave a humble wave to his new fans before quietly slipping off the stage. By the time Ryan realized what had happened, Mr. Bean had already disappeared into the park. Mission accomplished. The internet explodes. Back at Ryan's editing studio, his team scrambled to piece together the day's footage. Although Ryan had meant to prank Mr. Bean, the final cut was 95% Bean pranking Ryan, and it was hilarious. When the video went live on TikTok, it exploded within hours. The title read, I tried to prank Mr. Bean, biggest fail ever. Faced with tears of joy, millions of viewers flooded the comment section. Backhand index pointing right. Mr. Bean's still the king of comedy. Backhand index pointing right. He pranked you without saying a word. Legend. Backhand index pointing right. Never mess with the Bean, bro, never. Even celebrities joined the fun, with famous comedians tweeting, Mr. Bean, 1, TikTok, 0. Ryan, though embarrassed, had to admit, he had never seen engagement like this before. His follower count surged by nearly 2 million in just a week. and the video had earned him a spot on morning TV shows across America. In an unexpected twist, Mr. Bean himself became a viral icon once again, reminding the world that even in the age of TikTok, classic comedy still reigns supreme. And as for Ryan, well, he learned an important lesson. Never, ever underestimate Mr. Bean. Despite the humiliation from Mr. Bean's pranks, Ryan wasn't ready to give up. His ego was bruised, sure, but his follower count had skyrocketed, and the video had earned him more views than any prank he had ever pulled. Still, he couldn't shake the feeling that he had become the butt of the joke. Sitting in his high-rise apartment, Ryan scrolled through the endless comments on his latest post. Backhand index pointing right. Bro got played by a comedy legend. Backhand index pointing right. Mr. Bean is the goat of pranks. Don't even try, man. Backhand index pointing right round 2. Ryan? Or are you scared? Face with tears of joy. Scared. Ryan scoffed, slamming his phone on the table. I'm not scared. If Mr. Bean wants to play games, then it's time for the ultimate prank. His new plan, the fake movie audition. Through his connections, Ryan secured a spot at a high-end casting studio in downtown Manhattan. The goal was to invite Mr. Bean to a fake audition for a Hollywood action movie, complete with professional cameras, a fake director, and ridiculous stunts designed to throw him off his game. If he survives this without breaking, Ryan chuckled to himself, I'll retire from pranking. Setting the trap. Using a forged letter from a fictional production company called Mega Action Films, Ryan's team delivered an official-looking audition invitation to Mr. Bean's apartment. The letter promised a leading role in a new blockbuster titled Agent B, the Most Dangerous Spy. When Mr. Bean opened the letter, his eyes widened in excitement. Me, a secret agent? He murmured, his face lighting up like a child on Christmas morning. Without a second thought, he grabbed his tweed jacket, stuffed Teddy into a briefcase, and marched off toward the audition. By the time Mr. Bean arrived, Ryan and his crew were ready. The studio was decked out with props, fake explosions, wire harnesses, and even a life-sized cardboard cutout of a villainous henchman. Ryan, dressed as the director, greeted him with a fake British accent. Ah, Mr. Bean, so glad you could make it. We're looking for someone extraordinary to play our lead spy. Are you ready? Mr. Bean nodded enthusiastically, adjusting his tie. Oh yes, Secret Agent Bean. The prank was about to begin, but once again Ryan underestimated his opponent. The action audition Bean's Revenge. The first scene required Mr. Bean to perform a classic spy disarm maneuver. Ryan's team had rigged a spring-loaded briefcase to explode with confetti when opened. All Mr. Bean had to do was flip the case open and pretend to disable a bomb. Action, Ryan called. Mr. Bean approached the briefcase with his usual clumsy elegance. But instead of following directions, he gave the briefcase a gentle poke, and immediately, it snapped shut again, disarming itself. Cut! Ryan barked, confused. Let's try it again. Take 2. This time, Mr. Bean tapped the side of the briefcase like he was adjusting an old TV antenna, and the spring inside jammed, preventing the confetti explosion entirely. Ryan's jaw clenched as the crew snickered behind him. Let's move to the next scene, Ryan grumbled. Scene 2, the laser trap. Ryan had set up a hallway of fake lasers, inspired by every spy movie ever made. The goal was to get Mr. Bean tangled up and fall face first into a giant pie waiting on the other side. All right, Mr. Bean, you need to sneak through the lasers without getting caught, Ryan instructed, struggling to hide his smirk. But instead of tiptoeing through like a normal person, Mr. Bean did what only Mr. Bean could do. He reached into his pocket and pulled out a pocket mirror. With a few clever angles, he reflected the laser beams onto Ryan's foot, tripping the sensor. Splat! The pie, meant for Mr. Bean, slammed directly into Ryan's face. The entire room erupted in uproarious laughter as Mr. Bean gave a dignified bow. Thank you, he said softly, as if he had just performed Shakespeare. Ryan stood there, dripping pie filling, his face a mix of shock and rage. This is not happening, he muttered. Bean's final blow. Just when Ryan thought things couldn't get any worse, Mr. Bean spotted one last prop tucked in the corner. A jetpack that Ryan's team had rigged to malfunction, spraying fake smoke everywhere. Curious as ever, Mr. Bean shuffled toward it. Ryan's eyes widened in panic. No, no, and oh, don't touch that. But it was too late. With a delighted giggle, Mr. Bean strapped on the jetpack and hit the ignition button. Instead of malfunctioning, the jetpack shot out glittery fireworks that sent Mr. Bean twirling like a human Catherine wheel. Ryan dove for cover as the glitter storm rained down on the set. When the dust settled, Mr. Bean stood proudly, completely unscathed, his hair only slightly singed. Ryan, however, was on the floor, covered head to toe in pie, glitter, and humiliation. The cameras captured every hilarious second. The internet reacts again. Ryan uploaded the final video with the title, "Mr. Bean destroyed my prank. Again. I'm done." Faced with tears of joy. If the first video broke the internet, this one shattered it. Within hours, it racked up 20 million views and trended across every major platform. Fans flooded the comments. Backhand index pointing right, Mr. Bean. The undefeated prank champion. Backhand index pointing right. Ryan thought he was slick. Bean said, "Not today." Backhand index pointing right, retire. Ryan, you'll never beat the legend. Even major news outlets picked up the story, dubbing it, "The Day Mr. Bean Won the Internet." And Mr. Bean? He remained blissfully unaware of his viral fame. As far as he was concerned, he had simply enjoyed a lovely day of fun and games. Epilogue, a humble defeat. A week later, Ryan posted one final message to his fans. "I tried, guys. I really did. But Mr. Bean? He's not just a legend, he's unstoppable. I'm officially hanging up my prank crown. Respect, Mr. Bean. You win." And somewhere in a cozy little apartment, Mr. Bean sat on his couch, happily playing with his remote-controlled pigeon, completely oblivious to the fact that he had just become the most famous prankster on the planet.